Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we had the Ribos operation. What was that one about?
Well, the main thing I remember about it is the Doctor has been sent literally on a quest, a mission to find the keys of time.
Yeah.
And that he has a new companion whose name, she is a Time Lord, or at least somebody from Gallifrey, whose name, well, he shortened it to Romana.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the fact that for once he has a companion who he's not always trying to explain things to because she is quite smart. She's a graduate of the academy or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she's a really good foil for him, and we were looking forward to seeing how that was going to turn out. But actually about the Ribos operation itself, all I remember is they got the first segment of the key.
Yeah. Romana is definitely the valedictorian of the academy, and the Doctor is the kind of guy who says C's get degrees. So, but we also do see the difference between the Doctor's experience, because he is much older, and Romana's book smarts. So there are some things for him to explain, just not as much as, like, you know, Leela. So with Leela, you kind of got to explain everything.
Yes.
So yeah, we started off the mission to find the 6 pieces of the Key of Time and deliver it back to the White Guardian. But we were also warned of the Black Guardian, who could be lurking about. I am going to put out a prediction that the White Guardian is actually the Black Guardian. And that's going to be the twist towards the end. But
I think you'd put that forward in the last episode.
He just tricks you by wearing a white suit. You never realize. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much where we were. Now we're going to somewhere else to find the next piece. So
The Pirate Planet.
Yep. This is another 4-parter. I imagine it's all 4-parters until the last one, which will probably be 6. So yeah, we'll do all of this in one go. So, and if you're wondering if Dad is sick again or not, just by his appearance, he's not. He's just cold. So
Yes, it's this is a real 1960s reference. It's like Ice Station Zebra in here. All right, I understand Alex is in here working and he's got all these machines on and he says it gets hot in here. But when I walk into the room, it's freezing. It's sub-freezing in here. It's like when I go into the operating room, and I always say, why is it so cold in the operating room? They said, well, we got 1,000 machines in here, and they all generate heat. So, they stick me under a blanket to try to keep me warm while they're operating on me.
yeah. Meanwhile, I can sit in here with a nice T-shirt and be completely fine.
I don't understand that. I mean, my hands are freezing, so I'm going to keep them in my hoodie for a while.
Yeah. And Ice Station Zebra is, though you say it's a very 1960s reference, it's also a Better Call Saul reference. If a very obscure Better Call Saul reference, but definitely one. I think actually Saul says it once during Breaking Bad. So I think that's like his, like, what he has for his bank account, basically. So it's not Saul Goodman or anything else. Yeah. So, but yeah, I can't remember what episode that would have been in, but it's a late 60s, maybe early 70s Cold War film about a submarine encounter, an American submarine encounter with the Russians, literally at the North Pole. Yeah. So, and if I remember, that does track with what I remember from that episode of Better Call Saul, and it's a random. It's a very obscure reference to an episode in season 2, but I remember it because that's how much I care about those shows. I remember every last detail. So, for those keeping up with the lore, all he's seen is Breaking Bad and El Camino. He has not started Better Call Saul yet. So, of course, I am also right at the end of Better Call Saul. I just finished up season 6, episode 7, which was a certainly intense, sad episode indeed. But anywho, that's not the point. The point is Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go. Alrighty, folks. Part 1.
R.
You suppose this, by any chance, has the same pirates that we saw before?
Probably not.
Let's hope not. Those were really bad.
Oh yeah, the space pirates.
Is this a slightly new opening?
It's a slightly desaturated opening. But otherwise, I think it's the same.
Oh, Douglas Adams. Fun. Love Douglas Adams books, by the way. Introduced both my boys to them.
Your report, Mr. Fibuli,
Yes, sir, I have it.
is 30 seconds late.
Yes, sir.
My qualities are many, Mr. Fibuli.
Oh, yes,
Ming
sir.
the Merciless.
Infinite capacity for patience is not amongst them. Citizens, prepare yourselves. Watch for the omens. I declare a new golden age of prosperity for all. I say again.
And there was much
I declare
rejoicing.
the dawning of a new golden age of prosperity. Watch for the omens.
A job well done to the extent of 0.166666.
Yes. The others will be easy. Piece of cake.
Piece of cake, Master. Piece of cake. Radial segment of baked confection. Coefficient and relevance to the key of time, 0.
That's what I said, K9. Piece of cake.
Did you just shove it in a boot?
Oh, no.
What?
How paralyzingly dull, boring, and tedious.
Oh, our next destination.
Yes, Calufrax.
Califrax.
Yes.
What about the synchronic feedback checking circuit?
What about...
Aren't you going to set it?
No, I never bother about that. Complete waste of time.
Oh, according to the manual, it's essential.
Listen, have you any idea how long I've been operating this TARDIS?
523 years.
Right. Is it really that long?
May I try?
What, about a book?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all right. You do it your way.
Thank you, Doctor. Multi-loop stabilizer?
Look out, Kenner. Hold on.
Now. Well,
Good.
thank you, Doctor.
The
TARDIS has a decent pilot.
Calufrax, you have made an enormous mistake. You've probably missed it by a couple of million light years. I wonder what's biting him.
That's how he chases his tail.
Well, according to these space-time coordinates, we have arrived at precisely the right point in space, at precisely the right time,
Yes, I know.
but to the wrong planet.
What?
This isn't Calufrax.
Then where are we?
I haven't got the faintest idea. All I do know is that this planet wasn't here when I tried to land. We're here!
Well, we've certainly come to the right place. The signal's coming from everywhere.
Never trust gimmicky gadgets.
Sentient life form approaching.
What?
It's all right. It just means someone's coming.
I know what it means. Excuse me.
No, excuse me. I'll do it. Excuse me. Would you take me to your leader? What we'd like to know, you see, is what... Halt! What we... You're not doing very well, K9.
Master.
No. Making contact with an alien race is immensely skilled and delicate operation, of course, but tact and experience. What would she know about it?
Excuse me.
She is prettier than you, Master.
Is she? What's that got to do with it?
How about a ruby? Suit a pretty girl like you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Would you like some jelly babies?
Oh, thank you very much. Excuse me.
What are they?
Sweet, you eat them.
Time of knowing shall be soon, and fast upon that shall follow the time of vengeance. Vengeance for the crimes of Zanuck.
Vengeance for the crimes of Zanuck.
We got like 3 different storylines going on here.
Yeah.
We're all murderers! Murderers!
It came from over there.
Okay. So Tom Baker has something wrong with his lip. I know he hit the console, but I'm wondering, are the Mentiads these guards, or are they the Brotherhood of Evil there in the saffron robes?
Yeah, I think the guys in robes are the Mentiads, and these are just the captain's guards.
Surrounded by incompetence, you and I. Incompetence and fools.
my only true friend. Never mind. Not long now. Not long now before it's finished. We'll be free.
So this thing is kind of a cross between Dr. Octopus's hands and the Winter Soldier.
Hello? Are you by any chance the Mentiads? Well, it's just that, you look like Mentiads to me. You see, what I thought was that,
Alrighty then.
Well, first of all, costumes and sets are fabulous. Although that is not something we would have ever expected to see in the BBC archives. Right, so this is all brand new.
Yeah.
Unless they borrowed it from some other production we don't know about. But there are several different storylines, which now only at the end seem to have come together. Again, I'm really liking Romana. I'm liking the fact that K9 is being integrated into it too.
Yeah.
So interested to see where it goes. And I can't tell if it's Douglas Adams writing or if it's simply everyone's particular invocation of their own humor. There seems to be a little bit more humor in it than normal.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of mystery going on, especially just because this isn't the planet that the Doctor said it would be.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, see, it's also another thing of I wonder again if this was a story that was already written or mostly written and then they came up with this Key of Time thing, because they've kind of dropped it very, very quickly, with the only real explanation being, well, we're just getting a reading everywhere. So I'm almost wondering if, they should be on Calufrax, but they're just in some sort of weird, maybe they're inside of whatever is posing as the Key of Time. So that's why they're getting a reading about that. But other than that, they haven't mentioned it yet. Yeah. So, I did also, I wrote down, because last week they said that the Doctor was 759 years old, and today Romana said that he had been flying the TARDIS for 523 years. So I had to do some math, which is very difficult for me, but I calculated with my basic first grade subtraction that he was 236 years old when he first stole the TARDIS. So, and I don't know, I guess they haven't shown him stealing the TARDIS, but later on in modern Doctor Who, when they show him stealing the TARDIS, he's already William Hartnell. He looks exactly like him, so he just aged a lot in those first 236 years, and then started going through. Yeah. Of course, we don't know when everything takes place after that, so that could have been immediately after, it could have been much later, but yeah, the past 523 years could have been the past 15 seasons of this show. We just don't know where. So, but that is the most definitive thing I've been able to figure out about the Doctor in nearly 5 years of watching the show. So, so yeah, and of course there will eventually be a more definitive age for the Doctor, where in modern Doctor Who he says he's only about 900 or so. But yeah, and I think, though, didn't the third Doctor say he was like thousands of years old or something? So I guess there's no consistency, but the only reason I sort of take this seriously is because it's not the Doctor saying it.
Yeah.
So
now, it's called the Pirate Planet, and yet we've really not seen anybody who look like pirates.
Yeah.
The captain is in charge, but he doesn't, again, seem to be a pirate of any kind.
Yeah, and it's just sort of a strange thing, because it's like a pirate planet you would expect to be a planet of pirates. Yeah. And it seems like, well, there's this one sort of controlling group under the captain, But then there's also a lot of civilians, and then there's this demon cult that Doctor Who loves to bring back every so often. So yeah, a pirate planet. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're missing something. So
He's been allowed to fall into the hands of the Mentians. I ordered that he should not be so allowed. Failure is something I find very hard to come to terms with.
well, tell this to your guards. It's not their fault.
It's a speeder.
No.
I had an air car rather like this once. It was a present for my 70th birthday. Did you know that if you realign
That's
them
definitely Flash Gordon.
and
No.
the polarity oscillate,
But it's still locked. I haven't finished yet. Bent hairpin.
The more sophisticated the technology, the more vulnerable it is to primitive attack.
People often overlook the obvious. See you later.
I'll never be cruel to an electron and a particle accelerator again.
Doctor?
And now this happens.
Good job.
Better than a stormtrooper.
No.
So, interior power station now, an exterior of an old coal mine.
This way.
Wonder if this down in the Devon and Cornwall area.
And I swear we've been to this one before.
they're not we're standing on now.
It's the planet we originally came looking for.
Califrax? Buried inside Zanuck?
Buried inside Zanuck, the pirate planet. Having the greatest sucked out of it.
What do you mean that whole other worlds have died to make us rich? Whole other worlds like us?
Whole other worlds.
Some of them inhabited.
Doctor, we have come for you.
I mean, I figured they would probably, if they're going after telepaths, they would eventually go for the Doctor. Alright, so that's the pirate planet. It's just that they don't seem like your typical Yar sort of pirates. So, but I guess the captain, I guess, has, you know, sort of an eye patch, like, and a bird on his shoulder. It's just, you know, Flash Gordon pirates. So it all works out. It all works out. But it's interesting, though.
Now, what year is this? Are we 76?
Let's see. This is 78.
Which I think is right about the time that the Flash Gordon movie came out. So I'm wondering if this was influenced by that.
Maybe. All right. So the entire planet how do they have the enough technological capabilities for that to dematerialize an entire hollow planet? So they also have to fit very specific types of planets too. They can't go any larger than their own hollow core. So, I mean, I guess we don't know how big Calufrax is, but, you know, like, at least if you go... Well, I guess if you put this to our solar system, I guess the Earth is the biggest solid planet that's not a gas giant.
Yeah. Because Mercury's very small.
Yeah.
And although Venus has a core, it does have a huge gaseous atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mars is smaller than the Earth. So.
Yeah, I think technically Venus is only just a little bit smaller than the Earth. I think they're often classified as sort of twin planets. So, but everything else, and yeah, you wouldn't be mining a gas giant. You might mine their moons, but
well, didn't the city of Bespin, wasn't that a gas mining colony?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm surprisingly out of date on a lot of niche Star Wars information. So, but But yeah, it definitely could have been. So it just looked a lot better than, Jupiter or anything, I guess, So yeah, it's an interesting concept. It honestly reminds me a bit of the Dyson sphere. Have you heard of that? Yeah, that can completely encapsulate an entire star. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's also interesting that there just are inhabitants, like there's civilians that don't know this is happening. Yeah. It almost makes you wonder, why does the captain have these civilians or the Mentiads there, Because I guess they run the equipment, but...
I suspect that the Citadel, whatever they were calling it, the thing that was up on top of the mountain.
I don't remember.
Yeah. That landed on a normal planet and then terraformed it into the pirate planet, and that's why these other people are still there.
Yeah, they were probably like low level, primitive, kind of like what we saw last episode with the space Russians. So, so yeah, it's an interesting concept, definitely. So,
the Mentiads have located Dr. Master. They're approaching.
How can you tell? I didn't hear anything.
The Dr. Master has very distinctive heartbeats. Estimated time of arrival, 21.9 seconds.
I can't get over the Mentiads. All my life I've been taught to hate and loathe them.
The Doctor would not have instructed me to conduct you to them if he had not thought it safe. 12 seconds.
How could he possibly know?
My subsequent analysis of their brainwave patterns indicated no malice when they attacked him.
You mean they slammed him to the wall with good vibrations?
Affirmative. Arrival imminent.
K9 surprised to see us?
Amazed, Master.
What? Didn't I say he'd be amazed?
Once again, that casting call. Must be tall, very pale, and resemble a zombie.
Yeah. Very skinny. I hope we get to see a fight between the bird and K9.
At almost the same moment it vanishes, it rematerializes in another part of the galaxy around another, slightly smaller planet.
In this case, a planet called Calufrex.
Yes. So your planet...
Zanak. Just helping you along, Doctor.
So your planet...
Zanak.
Yes.
And leave them defenseless? As weak as ordinary men? Obliterable! Excellent, Mr. Vivian, excellent. Your death shall be delayed.
Oh, thank you again and again, sir. Your goodness confounds me.
Queen Xanxia staged galactic wars to demonstrate her powers. By the time she'd finished, Zanak was ruined. When the captain arrived, there was hardly anyone left.
Just a few miserable nomadic tribes.
Tell me, how did he arrive?
The legend speaks of a giant silver ship that fell from the sky one night with a mighty crash like thunder. The captain was one of the few survivors.
Oh, good. I see you found some occupational therapy, Captain. It's a good thing not to let your old skills die.
I assure you, my old skills are very much alive.
Is she the queen?
Maybe.
I feel I should point out, Captain, that it is a heavily populated planet.
Show me the chart.
It is here, sir, in the planetary system of the star Sol. The planet Terra.
Oh no.
Yes, a pretty planet.
Another planet, Captain.
Another planet.
Then the objective will soon be reached.
It will. It will indeed.
It'd be hilarious if they go to Earth and the Brigadier shoots them out of the sky.
I can understand the life of a full-blooded pirate. The thrill, the danger, and the daring do, but this, hidden away in your mountain retreat, eating other people's perfectly good planets. Where's the daring do in that?
Silence!
You're just trying to shut me up. You can't kill me while I'm helpless.
Can't I?
No, you can't.
It's against the code.
Because you're a warrior. And it's against the warrior's code.
They're more like guidelines.
Then it's the most brilliant piece of astrogravitational engineering I've ever seen. The concept is simply staggering. Pointless, but staggering.
Gratified that you appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Avatron, kill.
Yes. the greatest fight in cinematic history.
Well, it's no lightsaber duel.
Locked? Yes. We're trapped.
Just have to have a telephone on the wall. Oh, there's the Queen.
Oh.
No, don't. Those are the time dams.
Wait, you mean they stop time?
Not completely, but they can slow down the flow of time and the space between.
Oh.
Look at that.
He killed the bird.
Good boy.
And my polyphase Avatron.
I'm sorry about that, but it was becoming an infernal nuisance.
Polyphase. So it was a poly. Wants a cracker like a
Parrot
carrot.
of Hades!
Oh.
He's going to walk the plank.
A plank? You can't be serious. Is he?
Well, just use the scarf to grab onto something.
Captain, you don't realize what you're doing. If you just listen to me...
I shall listen to you when I hear you scream.
But... please... But...
Alrighty. That is part 3.
So Douglas Adams has his tongue firmly in his cheek here.
Well. Okay. So, well, the Queen is still alive. I'm still guessing, though, that, like, maybe she's passed her consciousness into the nurse. So, because that, they do kind of hint at that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, though. It's such a strange thing, though, that it's like, all right, so there was the civilization. Then they got this one queen who was terrible. And then randomly this captain guy showed up and did all this other stuff with the planet. So I'm curious, like, why... I don't know. Do they have some tie-in, or was it just a coincidence that the captain had to land here?
Knowing Douglas Adams, there's probably a tie-in somewhere.
Yeah. Because, I mean, and they've already tied in the Mentiads and why they have this telepathic power and why they keep growing with it. It's all the psychic energy from the dead planets, so... Oh, and seeing K9 with the Avatron, it does remind me of when our old dog, Missy, came in with a bird in her mouth. So, yes. And wasn't there one time with Darby where it wasn't a bird, it was rabbits, though, wasn't it?
I can't remember if it was Darby or if it was Missy.
I think it was Darby.
But yeah, she found a rabbit had given birth under the shed, and they brought in the little baby rabbits one by one.
Yeah, so a quick note to any and all animals: don't go to the domain of a predator. This also goes for squirrels, who keep burying peanuts in the yard, and he keeps digging them up. It's not going to work, and eventually you're going to run out of your food. This is also a PSA to anyone who's feeding peanuts to squirrels. Stop it. You shouldn't be allowed to do this. Anywho.
Anyway.
You know what else would be a funny twist? Is if, like, the Queen's consciousness was actually in Mr. Fibulous instead.
Hello, everybody. Doctor. Sorry I couldn't make the jump myself. I've got a terrible head for heights.
Then who?
I've discovered your little secret. We're not all quite as we seem. Neat little machine, isn't it?
Try all you like, Doctor. Won't work on me. My new body has almost attained fully corporeal form. Prelix, look out!
Ooh. Yes, good vibrations. Alright, well, stop congratulating yourselves.
Very impressive.
Got a bit of Lila in her after all.
No.
I don't know.
I said deal with them.
Mr. Fibili, seal the bridge.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Alright, so then it really was just a coincidence that he landed there. And she's just using him.
Yeah.
The inertia neutralizer. You know, I think the conservation of momentum is a very important law in physics, don't you?
Yes.
I don't think you're going to watch your temper with it, do you?
No.
No, not at all.
Oh.
Newton's revenge.
Felix, do you have the strength to raise the door yet?
No, Doctor. Our minds are so weak we couldn't lift anything bigger than a spanner.
That's it.
It's a wrench.
A spanner in the works.
Felix, forget the door.
Now, follow my movements. Macrovectoid particle analyzer. Omnimodular thermochron. There. Megaphoton discharge link.
What do we do?
Hit it.
Good job. Man, that thing was fragile.
What are you doing?
No, Captain, don't do it. It won't work.
Die, you fool! Die! And now, Doctor.
What about Calufrax? How do we get hold of Calufrax?
Well, naturally, Calufrax flung off into the space-time vortex, and we pick it up later in the TARDIS.
Well, naturally. Oh. That's quite ingenious.
Quite ingenious. It's brilliant. It's fantastic.
All right, it's fantastic.
Fantastic. Right. Here we go, then.
Trying a bit of the Knife Doctor there.
Yes, the old-fashioned
Doctor, when all this is over,
dynamite detonator.
will we really be free?
We will.
Good. I'll get out of the way while you concentrate. That was very satisfying. Come on, Romana, we've got a job to do.
Alright, they said like a lot of stuff that I just don't understand. But the point is they won and they got the key.
Yes.
So, we'll just take that.
Like you said, I think this was a story that just injected it, because you notice they talked about it at the very beginning and only again at the very end.
Yeah, and then they didn't go and get it and show, oh, we got the second piece and maybe it like fits in together with the first piece they got.
Yeah.
Just not like, well, we're done, we are off. So it definitely feels like Douglas Adam wrote a script and it was like, put in a couple extra lines here and there. So, but overall, pretty good. I enjoyed it more than the last one.
Yeah.
So, a bit more interesting. It makes a little bit more sense than space Russians and con men selling to dictators, but yeah, so definitely an interesting one. I still don't get, again, just they talked about so much stuff at the end there, just a lot of Doctor Who technobabble, which the difference between Doctor Who technobabble and something like Star Trek is, in Star Trek you can kind of listen to it and it vaguely like makes sense. You're like, okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the problem with Doctor Who is the Doctor will just go off on something, and honestly, he could be saying anything, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they kept saying reverse the polarity, you know? It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I thought they were saying that if you messed up the tiny little remains of the planets, it would create a black hole, and yet at the end they apparently blew them up. Although I think he said something about we have thrown them off into another dimension. I don't know. So yes, you're right. That was very confusing. But again, I think the ultimate thing that everybody watching it would have said is, oh, they fixed the problem and they won.
Yeah. They were able to kill the queen, blow up the building, and the other question I do have, though, is where did they drop Zanuck?
Yeah.
Is it just in the solar system now? Because that's the last place they were at, so I don't know. You never hear about it, so...
And he did say they were in a nice place with neighbors and a lot of sunlight, so...
Yeah, so maybe they just gave the solar system another planet, so... and it's interesting, this whole idea of dematerializing an entire planet, that does actually come back during the 10th Doctor's era, where there's like a whole thing of like the Daleks are like stealing a bunch of planets and stuff, and eventually they steal the Earth, and the Doctor figures out how to put the Earth back where it needs to be, and he basically just uses the TARDIS to dematerialize the entire planet somewhere else. So yeah, so it's an interesting concept, obviously, that they'll bring back. But this one, I mean, it's definitely an interesting, this entire hollow planet dematerializes and appears over a different planet in order to mine it. So, okay, but then we also had the whole thing, so the trophies of the dead planets were not... That was not the Queen's plan. That was the Captain's thing specifically, and he was going to use it somehow to bust the time dams in order to kill the Queen. Again, I don't know how that happens, but that was his plan, and the Doctor was able to use it to his advantage. So, an interesting thing. They keep going back to miners. Like, there's a lot of episodes about miners in this show.
Well, again, let's face it, England's prosperity from the 1700s on was all about coal mining. Once we began to realize that coal, there was such a huge amount of coal, not only in the United Kingdom, but also in Europe, and that it could replace wood, that's where a lot of our ancestors were coal miners there in the Devon area. And I'm sure that when I guess this would be my great-grandfather emigrated here back in the late 1800s, one of the reasons he moved to Pennsylvania is because that's a coal mining area here in the United States.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I guess, yeah, that does make sense. It's just interesting just how often, that's a recurring thing. And honestly reminds me of the one issue I have with Star Wars is that the world building in Star Wars is incredible and terrible at the exact same time, where it's like, yes, you see this entire empire where nobody, like, there's no entertainment, there are no movies, there's practically no books, there's nothing to do except build things for the Empire. Yeah. And that's basically it. Like, if you're not a Jedi, there's nothing to do in this place. And it does kind of remind me of that, because pretty much like every time you go to some place of like, oh yes, we have to go to this place to do something here, it's like, it's always building something. Yeah. They're always like building ships or weapons or, well, not even, because you don't even see like there's no like, oh, we're going to a blaster factory. Like, oh, that'd be interesting. It's like, it's either that or criminals, because then you get like, smugglers and rebels and stuff like that. So it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, now Doctor Who is a lot better at that, where it's like, we have seen other facets of civilizations in this world, and to their credit, every time there are miners, they're always different from each other, Yeah. So at least, give Doctor Who that credit, that they make all of their mining stories very distinct from each other. But it does kind of remind me of that.
Now, I will say this. The captain in this reminded me of the guy who was the guy on Pluto. The Gatherer or something like that. Collector.
Yeah.
Yeah. His elevated speech, is semi-Shakespearean type insulting. That was kind of fun. I think he could have gone a little bit further with that. Again, just I'm speaking as an actor and a director. But yeah, the whole dynamic between the captain and Mr. Fibuli was good.
Yeah. And honestly, Mr. Fibuli kind of feels like a character who would like go turncoat by like episode 3, but no, he never did. He stuck to it for some reason. I guess he didn't know any better. So, so yeah, let's see. It's also interesting, the whole thing with the Meniads, that it's like, oh, they're this, telepathic people, and the reason they keep getting more powerful is just all, any sort of telepathic energy on these planets keeps just getting absorbed into them. I'm kind of curious, though, how did that start in the first place? Like, it had to have been, like, when this was just a normal planet, they were just sort of low-level telepaths, but they don't really, I don't know, they don't go into that. And it's also interesting that we never see, I guess, sort of the commoners again. Like, we get Kimus and Mula, but we never go back to, like, her grandfather, who was always, we have to be quiet, we can't, do anything. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and after that first episode where Romana and the Doctor were trying to talk to the regular people, we never saw them again, really.
That was also a weird thing in this, because at first I was like, oh, okay, this is like, because that goes into what the grandfather was saying, well, we keep to ourselves, we have to keep quiet and everything. But then Romana just goes up and talks to them anyway, and it's fine. And I get the joke. I get the joke with, K9 saying, oh, she's much prettier than you, that's why. But it's like, it just kind of seems weird that it's like, well, nobody wants to talk to the Doctor, And that's normally his thing, is he goes and he talks to anybody, so... So that was odd, but worked out. And I guess because I was also thinking, like, the whole thing where it's like, oh, a new golden age is announced, which is when, all the minds get magically refilled, and that's, them dematerializing and going to another planet. And at first I was like, well, does nobody notice that the underground looks way different? Like... And especially because I thought, like, okay, well, they're not going down themselves. They're just sending all the equipment. But from the sound of it, it's the common folk who are using the equipment down there. Do none of them catch that it always looks completely different every time they go down?
Well, again, they've been trained not to ask questions. Remember, you said questions are forbidden.
That's true. So yeah, it's just such an interesting, like, matchup of different things on this planet. But I guess I would also say that is a good thing, that it's like, okay, you've got the common folk, you've got the guards, you've got the captain, you've got the queen, then you've also got the Meniads, and it's all these different things. That does at least make sense for a planet. Like, and this is a problem with, like, I think most science fiction, that whenever you go to a planet, it's always just one thing on that planet. Like, it's like everybody, they're pretty much identical, where it's like, you look at the Earth and you can't go to two countries without being like, these are vastly different, even if they're too close.
Yeah.
Even if they're very close.
Like the Americans and the Canadians.
Yeah. You go to America and Canada, it's like, well, this is very different. Canada and Mexico are very different. You go over to the UK, you look around just the UK, they're all different from each other, and they'll all say they're different from each other. But then in any science fiction, you go to a planet, it's like, yes, we are one thing, and we are not different from each other. So,
well, science fiction, which has been going on literally since the mid-1800s with Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and people like that, they always say the point of science fiction is to take a particular subject and isolate it, and then try to show you how it is relevant to the world that you live in. So that's very common, and yes, it does get overworked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting for one of these things to go to a planet where literally nobody gets along.
Yeah. Like, because even, I don't know, because I feel like even when there are, like, there's one episode of The Next Generation, I think it's actually just called First Contact, where you kind of see the first contact from the I guess, aliens' perspective. They're alien to us, but it's first contact because they're about to achieve warp and meet the Federation. And you see all that, but even still, where that is sort of because they make it a lot like Earth, it's still like, well, we don't see all the facets of this world and how that will, now affect space. Yeah. So, but this one, even if it's sort of, this strange sort of like, all right, we got the guards who look way too close to ice warriors with their helmets. We've got the commoners, we've got the captain, we've got the queen or the nurse, and then we've got this weird demon cult that exists, but they're not a demon cult, they're just kind of psychic. But there also is there's a sky demon he keeps talking about, but I don't know what he's talking about. It's like, is that just supposed to be the sun? I don't know, because he's also from space. He crashed here, and the Queen took advantage of that. But why does he keep referencing, the left frontal lobe of the sky demon and stuff? That also is a lot like the Gatherer with as many different things for his boss. So,
yes, your obsequiousness.
Yeah. So, and then eventually he said, "Yes, it is obliterable." And it's like, I'm not sure if that's a word, man.
Well, it is now.
It is now, according to the captain. So, and I will say, I'm almost wondering, we always have that sort of joke of like, do they come up with the titles first and then be like, all right, now write a story for this title? And I almost wonder if they kind of did that, but at the same time, I almost wonder if they did the reverse of that, where it's like, they did this whole thing, wrote out this whole script, and then somebody came up with like, oh, they're like, this like, pirates, like a pirate planet, and it's like, oh, that's interesting, but if you say pirate planet, you really expect them to be a planet of pirates, and that's not really what this is. It's like, the captain's kind of a pirate, they give him the, eye patch, the hook arm, and the bird. It's all futurized and everything. So, but other than that, it's like there's not too much pirate about this except for walking the plank.
Yeah.
But that's about it. So I'm wondering if it's almost a reverse, like they wrote the story and then it's like, oh, it's kind of like a pirate planet, but they couldn't go back and do a full pirate planet. It's like, well, we'll just use the name and it's fine. So, and then at the same time, they were like, because then that could even make sense of like, all right, we've had this whole story. All right, you have to add in a couple references in the first and fourth episodes about the Key of Time. And then while you're at it, it's about pirates. Put in a plank for the Doctor to walk. So, I don't know. Let's see.
I wonder how far Tom Baker or the stuntman actually had to drop off of that plank, because he's got to be 6 feet tall, and so when he walked off that, he dropped completely out of sight, so it had to have been at least a 6 foot drop. And having jumped from places like that, I can tell you that's not an easy jump.
So because he also like jumped just straight down too. It wasn't like he fell backwards, which you could at least cheat a little bit more. So yeah, don't worry though, he landed on his hair. So it's a protective cushion, all that curly hair. We also had K9 versus the Avatron, which was interesting. And I like that the laser that K9 has is almost like, it's kind of like a dog's tongue, except it can fire things at any angle. I did find it hilarious that as the Avatron was flying around, like the normal method of attacking, whoever he was killing, I looked like it was just to like pierce the heart and then it's fine. Of course, you can't show any of that blood on Doctor Who. But I found it interesting that its main way of attacking K9 just appeared to be crapping on it, just crapping these little laser things on it.
Yeah, I noticed that the lasers were coming out of its bottom side, so I thought the same thing.
It just never hit K9. So and of course we joke on it, but it's still a fun fight. I mean, it's fun because K9 is fun, and K9 is an inherently goofy concept anyway. So it all works out.
And once again, let me reinforce the dynamic between the three of them now, the Doctor and Romana and K9, is actually working much better than I ever thought it would.
Yeah, I think part of it, at least with K9, because the Doctor seemed very resistant to K9 last season. I feel like now, because he's a bit more resistant to Romana, he has to be a bit nicer to K9. It's like, wow, at least I have K9. He's he helps out. He understands my plans. But yeah, it is very interesting. I'm getting a lot more of Sarah Jane out of Romana. So whereas Leela, she would question the Doctor, but if there was a plan of attack, she's all in for that. Yeah. So yeah. And then so they had everything with the time dams and the Queen, who was stuck in the last few seconds of her life, which allowed her to create a projection of a new body that somehow was becoming a real body. And I don't know how that works.
Well, you'll remember, and this would have predated Deep Space Nine or Star Trek Next Generation, but they did that episode in Next Generation where Data created Professor Moriarty.
Yeah.
Who was trying to find out how he could stop being a hologram and become actually, corporeal. So it's a very interesting concept there.
Yeah. But the issue was that there would never be enough energy for the time dam, so she would never fully materialize, I guess. Which that was interesting, and I like how the Doctor says, he's very familiar with types of regeneration, so he knows that won't work specifically. So, I mean, it is sort of an interesting thing that there's pretty much been no other way of extending your life on this show. It's just down to regeneration, and even that you could argue it's like, well, you're extending your life, but you're getting an entirely new form, and they go more into the philosophy behind that in modern Doctor Who. But it's just sort of interesting that there's really nothing else that even comes close to a Time Lord's regeneration.
Yeah.
So, and I did think when the Captain threatened to kill Romana, I did think, guess she could regenerate.
Yeah, it leads to the question: is this her first body, or has she regenerated before?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would imagine, because she's so young, sort of fresh out of the academy, I would imagine she's still on her original form. So, yeah, and I don't know, I don't remember, someone in the comments said that on your first, the form you were born with, you only have one heart, and it's on your first regeneration that you gain the second heart. So I don't know if that's gonna be a thing, maybe, because we did have that moment where K9, knew that the Doctor was coming because he could hear his distinctive heartbeats, but I don't know if that's a thing with Romana yet. So, but yeah, other than that, I guess we had the dual materialization of Zanuck and the TARDIS that knocked them both away from the Earth. It's still, again, now, okay, and they also said, this is just another thing, I don't know what they were talking about, where they did fill the core of Zanuck, so it's no longer hollow. I don't remember what they filled that with, though. I assume it was one of the dead planets, but it can't be Calufrax, because they need that one. That's the key of time. But I'm not sure what they filled it with exactly, so I don't know. There's probably 10 things I missed in this last episode. That's the one. I don't know. They got some classic Dynamite and a comical push in to do that. I also like that the Mentiads just don't do anything by hand. They just refuse to do. It's like, oh yes, we shall blow this up, and then they do it psychically. It's like, you didn't need to do it. It's 3 feet away from you. But yeah. I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
what's up next?
Next up, we have the Stones of Blood.
Okay.
I'm assuming one of those stones is going to be the piece to the the Key of Time. So we've got 2 pieces down and 4 to go. So, and again, another reason why this probably was a script that they had to doctor later to be in this season. Again, no mention of the Black Guardian. So unless, I'm like 100% positive, like it's not Romana. That would be an incredible twist. I don't see them doing that, and I'm just pretty sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, still no mention of the Black Guardian. So maybe next time we'll get that. But yeah, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then, with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.